Do you feel like you're constantly at war with your own mind? Are you feeling disconnected, burned out, struggling to truly love yourself? Look, I've been there many times myself, and what I've noticed is it usually has something to do with our good old friend, limiting beliefs. But what if I could teach you how to destroy your limiting beliefs? What if I could show you how to turn that limiting belief into your greatest superpower? How would you feel being comfortable and at peace with who you really are? Then look no further, this episode is for you. The following is a conversation with Valerie V, a serial entrepreneur and the co-founder of ISpeakUpLightup, a platform designed to empower women entrepreneurs to bring their vision to life. She's also an international speaker, best-selling author, mentor, and world champion athlete who is passionate about helping aspiring and fellow entrepreneurs navigate through those life transitions and empowers them to reinvent themselves, turn their adversities into superpowers, and to become true champions in both business and life. And if you enjoyed the episode, guys, if you could please do me the small favor of just hitting that subscribe button, it'll help me build the show and build the channel and bring more amazing guests and inspiring conversations. But that's enough for me for now. Let's get to the episode. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hope It Helps. And I have a very special guest with me today, Miss Valerie V. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. So Valerie, me and you got connected like quite quickly and in a very unorthodox way. So guys, as you know by now, I have the pleasure of meeting so many of my guests through LinkedIn. So we have a connection, which is Jules, and she put us in touch. And she's like, Khaled, I think Valerie would be a great guest for you on the podcast. And then I took a look at your background, your experience, and what you're doing right now. I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly the kind of topics I like to dive into. And especially as a early stage entrepreneur myself, I like to learn, from others. And I think the approach you take to the mentoring and the entrepreneurship that you do is, yes, there are tools, there are strategies, but from my research and the podcast I've seen you on, you really focus on the human aspect.
Yeah.
And because that's so relevant to, as an entrepreneur, you're going to be faced with so many different challenges. And if you're not dealing with, the thing that's holding you back, the shadows as you put them and all that stuff, it's going to be really hard to advance. So I wanted to talk to you today about your journey. First of all, I've never had the pleasure of speaking to a world champion athlete, so I need to know all about that. And just your journey as an entrepreneur, and we'll talk about, ISpeakUpLightup and a couple of other things. But before we get into everything, Valerie, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Well, one more time, thank you very much for having me today. It was really spontaneous.
Yeah.
Because I really came here because we just created our event, bringing all entrepreneurs from different parts of the world together. So basically, my idea was always, I feel like we're like free spirit, people, we can create anything, what we have in our mind. So that's why I call entrepreneurs creators. And I had this always feeling like, what do you want to achieve? You can just go for it. It's just a decision. So, and I know that people are different, and very often you meet entrepreneurs who say passion is not important. Like you have goals you want to achieve, money-wise, financially wise. So just go for it. Reverse engineering. I would say I'm type of person, for me it's hard to do something, like I'm never motivated by money.
Okay.
But for me it's important, is it like light me up?
Yeah.
Am I passionate about this? Because otherwise I cannot persevere.
Sure.
And the same like in sport, because sometimes you have to train, 8 hours, 10 hours per day. I think maximum was like a record 12 hours.
12
in
hours
hall.
of training. Wow.
It was crazy, and it was like non-stop, just before the World Championship.
Okay.
So your body is like, I don't know, you don't feel it anymore. It's in pain. Mentally, it's very like a huge pressure, because it's not just you representing yourself, it's the whole team, it's the whole country. So that's why if you don't have passion to this, you cannot make it.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling that you have to be passionate 24/7. Sometimes you hate what you do.
I know.
But then you come back to yourself, you're just like, no, this is what really makes me feel alive. So with this being said, I graduated business school, even though I have completely different plan for my life. But I'm coming from a traditional Asian family, and my dad at the time said, you know what, go study business. And I'm grateful for that. Then when I came to him with my business idea, my first business, he was like, forget about that. It was like first no from my dad. It was such a pain. But I found a job in the bank. I hated it.
Okay.
But I opened my first business. And I invited my dad to the presentation. He was shocked. But yes, it was a dance studio.
A dance studio,
Yes,
interesting.
my
Okay.
first business. It was, and I think because of this passion, we just was like freshmen from university with my business partner, and we didn't have funds for marketing, and there were so many business schools already, or not business schools, dancing schools already. So we were quite creative with our marketing, with what we had, like we utilized whatever. So it was quite successful. So for me, it was like the first touch, really doing business. But then unfortunately life happened. And another lesson I learned is that, you know, whatever is happening to you, like in times of darkness, no one is coming to save you.
Very true.
It's you.
Very true.
And
Very
this
true.
is given to us also to unlock a lot of powers, to discover who we truly are. Like at the very, I would say, young age, I lost my parents in car accident and faced all these things, from corruption, from how things are going through, and many other aspects. And I think every time when you feel like your life is totally like collapsing and crashing, you always have a choice. It's like, yes, you can be victimized by the circumstances, other people, their behavior, betrayals, whatever, or it's your choice, like, to be in this victimhood, or to say, no, okay, thank you for the lesson, and now I can build up on whatever power I have inside. And I think this also gave foundation for our current platform. And I know that, like, I don't know even if we, like, can cover everything, because I was in investment, I was, like, real estate, crypto, like, so many different ventures. I was studying psychology as well.
Okay.
I think pulling all these things together, now it became for me kind of foundation for, I would say, competitive advantage.
Yeah, because you're pulling from so many different areas that you've had the experience of working in, right? Yeah.
And sometimes, and I want to say, if you are on the path of discovering what is your passions, what is your purpose in life, and you are not just thinking that you can be good in something, you actually do things. I was very much criticized, like, oh, you're multi-passionate, or you can't focus, or I saw you're doing counseling, like psychology, all this stuff, and today you are again developing a completely different program. And for me, it was like I was taking this critique at the very first times, like, feel inadequate even sometimes.
Sure.
But now I say, you know what, it's a path.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different path, and I think we're giving specific skills to develop, because gradually it leads us somewhere. I don't say then, like, in 5 years or 10 years I will be doing exactly what I'm doing now. We don't know. But this is all adds up as skills, as experience. So the listeners, the viewers, I really invite you, if you have something, like if you have a calling, you are interested, curious about something, just go and give it a try. Even if it's just 1 month, even if it's just 1 year, you never know how you can use it in the future.
No, 100%. And I'm similar to you in the sense that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what or how. And, when I was at university and over the years, I'd tell my dad, like, oh, I have this idea for this. And then he would challenge me, as he should, and make me think about, but what about that? And you need to think about this, and so on. So I fell into what I'm doing now almost by accident. I never planned to have a podcasting agency. I never planned to be a podcaster, but like you said, I lived in Amsterdam for a while, had an experience in sales, worked in corporates and startups, moved back before COVID, so nothing was happening, and I'm like, all right, it's probably the best time to start a podcast now. There's nothing else going on, and 5 years later, here we are. So I resonate with your story of you can't just think it. You kind of have to go out and do things. And I think you made a good point that I think sometimes people think I have to try it for a very long time and then I'll know if this is for me. But sometimes very quickly you can be like, yep, yeah, that one, yeah, not for me. So I want to start our conversation just on your journey as an athlete, because I think that your experience in that kind of has probably carried through every single venture that you've been through. So tell us about that journey as an athlete, and what were you guys athletes in? What give us that story.
Ballroom dancing.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And I know that many people, they underestimate dancing and telling it's not sport. I would say it's a combination of art and sport.
Yeah.
And I know that like the most, like if you ask, for example, boxers, like strong guys go and dance, they can do it.
Yeah.
Because dancing is utilizing so many different muscles, brain. And we had a podcast, as I told you just when I arrived, and we were actually diving deeper. And like I was asked, like, when you go and perform, you already know in advance what is the music, what is everything. No, we never know like what is coming up. So it's like,
okay,
it's a combination of nailing the skills, the foundation, then you go out there and you perform. So it's kind of, if to translate to business, there are lots of external factors that you cannot control, but every day you prepare yourself. So you're showing up. It doesn't matter if you're exhausted, if you don't feel like training, you're just like showing up. Like you probably showing up for your clients, or you're doing this podcast, you have commitment, you have dedication. And this is like builds up the skill. And I think a lot of things you can also learn from the dancing world.
Yeah.
Because every single dance symbolizes something different. And when you're just beginner, you don't look at this. But if you're also in the personal development space, you start perceiving everything what you do with your body, with the mind, spirit on a completely different level. So yeah, journey was like 16 after 16 years of being here. 16
years, wow. Wow.
It happened.
Yeah, you did it.
And overnight success happened. Wow. Literally.
I appreciate about that story is it took 16 years to become a world champion. So and this is very common in entrepreneurship that we see, like no one sees everything that goes on behind the scenes. No one saw the 12-hour days of training you guys are putting in for years and years and years. But then you had success, you get that validation, and everyone's like, oh, it must have been easy.
Yes,
Look,
always, always because of this, always because you were lucky, or because always.
And I think that is one of the biggest challenges though in entrepreneurship, because you have to, and you kind of touched on this, on managing uncertainty. Like in your case, you guys had a goal. We want to be world champions. How's that going to happen? When's that going to happen? The only thing we know that we have to do to give us the best chance is to continuously work and train and so on. Entrepreneurship's the same thing. I have this vision. This is where I want to go. That's what I want to achieve. I don't know, should I be doing this today? Should I be doing that today? I just know I need to be doing something to move me in that direction. But there's no success isn't guaranteed. It's like I'm entering like my second year, I'd say, of like my business. And already in this past 2 years, I've been like, wow, okay, what's happening? What a humbling lesson. Life came and said, oh, you want to do this? Bah, this is what it's going to take. And I'm like, okay. So how did that experience, because I can imagine when you have, and this is something I think you hear from a lot of athletes and people who have become successful. You have this goal, you work, you achieve it. Your whole life has been built towards this thing. Okay, now I've climbed that mountain. Then the next day is like, okay, now what? So how did you feel after you guys won it? Did you have those kind of thoughts like, oh, like what am I supposed to do now? I've achieved the goal.
For me, like the moment when we were, because it's pretty much looks like nowadays they change the system, so it's like kind of Olympics. You see this number, so like rank 1, and when I like saw it, at this moment I was like, oh wow, yeah, we made it. It's like there was no this feeling of excitement and it's like crazy. Later it came, but the first like, wow, it happened, and you're just like,
you're dealing with, I can't believe it
out of the body experience. But the next day, what's happening after that, you just go back and train. And we didn't have even the break. Like, no, because then we were preparing for the German championship. Okay. Then we were preparing for another, and we were dancing in 2 different disciplines. So, and there was competitions back to back, like 4 weeks in a row we were competing. Wow. So there was no break. Wow. After this, yes, we had, a couple of weeks break, and then we were just like, okay, what we want to achieve in our next, in this career, in this space. And then we started to do some changes. We also relocated. So it's always like, what's next? Yeah. Because if you're staying in this gap between like, yeah, let's celebrate, and then nothing is happening, you'll probably fall. Like, and even now we did, for example, business-wise, of course, also event. We were preparing months. Like the team was working hard. We were working hard, and now it's happened yesterday,
Yeah.
literally, today.
Yeah.
You know, like relaxing, right? Okay, I need to do follow-ups.
Yeah.
I need to send newsletters. I
Yeah.
need to continue engaging with community because now is the best time. Also,
fresh.
like social media is booming. You cannot say, "Oh, I'm leaving for a weekend recharge." It would be nice, but it's not what's happening.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe I'll take a few days break and instruct people
I
what
think
they
you
need
should.
to do. But at the end of the day, now, like, what's next, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, there is a moment like you think, what's next?
Yeah.
But actually, I was preparing. Like, I know now it's over, and we already have what is next.
Yeah.
So it depends on the journey. If you are very clear what you are building, like the vision, then you already know many milestones ahead.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't know what we're doing.
Exactly.
And that's why there is a moment like, oh, what's next? So
Yeah.
it really depends where
One-
you are at the point.
One thing I learned from listening to some of the podcasts you were on was, and you kind of touched on it now briefly, was the importance of planning. Because like you said, now you finished, the event is done. You, before even the event happened, in your mind, you're already like, okay, after the event, this is what the plan is. So like, I have a direction, there's somewhere I need to go. But a lot of times, kind of like what you touched on in the dancing example, like you go for it, and we forget to think about like, oh, but after that, what am I supposed to do? Who do I want to be? How do I want to move? So when you're, so you mentioned that when you guys did the first event, you didn't even have, you know, a website at the time.
Yes.
And that's why you said when you're working with entrepreneurs that you tell them start small, you know, take it step by step, but have a long-term vision in mind. Now, this is where, even myself at the moment, this is where I struggle because, and you've probably experienced this as an entrepreneur, you're like, okay, I want to build this thing. Great. Now every day is a process of trying to build the thing. So to think long, it's almost like I feel these days, I'm like, I don't even have the mental capacity to think like, oh, in 5 years, what do I want this to be? I'm like, I need to know what tomorrow is going to be. I don't even have the time to think about 5 years. So the question then I start to think about is it enough to just be like, okay, I have this goal that I have and not a specific structured plan to get there? Is that enough to get me there? Or from your experience, have you found that when you do have a structured plan, it makes the day-to-day a lot easier? Because even in that plan, things we might do the plan today, wake up tomorrow and learn something, you're like, okay, yeah, this is not going to work. We need to make a new one. So that's why I'm like, is it worth it? Should I? But I'd love to hear from you.
I think this is like a beauty of entrepreneurship. It's never like mundane. It's never the same things every day. And I think there is also a difference between like vision and the goals. Because
Okay.
like vision is not just, oh, I want to make, I don't know, create 9 figures business or 10 figures business, whatever. It's more like, what is this I put out to the world? For
It's
example, I
bigger
want to
than that.
light up people that they are like, oh, happy and fulfilled. I mean, not all, but who wants, of course, right? But make this world better. Like, we are resolving specific problem, of course. I'm just taking it very vague. So you have this vision, but you don't know how you're going to achieve it, right? And then we build kind of a different roadmaps. And sometimes what entrepreneurs perceive as a failure, it's better to think like it's a hypothesis. So there is this hypothesis. If I launch this product, it's going to bring me there where I want. You make it happen, kind of. It might be it's not working. It's not failure. It's just like, oh yeah, this hypothesis doesn't work. So I take the next one, and next one, and next one, and at some point you figure out what works for you. And that's why you have to be, I think, really careful in this personal development, mentorship space, because very often, like even like what I had, bad experience, when coach comes to you and say, oh, I will give you business. Like, for example, you come and say, oh, I made my money, I want to become entrepreneur. They like, I will give you business, I will give you everything. Like business, I mean business idea. But I think it's so wrong, because you is not him or her.
Yeah.
You're a completely different human being. And also people always expect this pill, or give me this pill to success, or give me this like what. And they are buying every single course or whatever that is promising the relief of this pain that they have. But the problem is the entrepreneurship is never like relief of the pain.
It's
There's
always painful.
it's always pain. You're just getting used to it.
Yeah.
At some point it becomes, maybe it's even unhealthy. That's why entrepreneurs are crazy. But I think that's the point. This is the journey to discover your own, as I call it, elixir of success.
Yeah.
You're trying different tools, you're trying different things, and then you figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
No one is going to come and say, hey, that's what's happening. Of course, we hire mentors. Of course, we like try something new because they're bringing us further.
Sure.
But only we are responsible for success we want to see.
Yeah.
So, like answering, I don't know if I answered your question, but I think, of course, it's important to have the planning, right?
Yeah.
You have numbers, especially if you have team. You are responsible, like you have budgets that you need to meet. So you know exactly how much you need to sell every single month, for example, and checking against strategies, what are working, you're doing it more, what is not working, either you tweak or you just say, no, we're not doing this anymore. So it's important to set these goals, but also like AI, right? Yesterday, everyone was talking about ChatGPT. Nowadays, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Or there was breaking news, DeepSeek.
DeepSeek,
now,
it's
already in the past because now we have this European whatever Lichat, and tomorrow something else happening, right? Someone will come and say, "Hey, we have holograms that are running the best podcast in the world," right? I don't know.
True.
The same like with the events. You don't know what's happening. And I think this is the beauty again of entrepreneurship, this uncertainty and like balancing, figuring out what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
My plan isn't trash. With the time you become just comfortable with this, being uncomfortable.
Sure.
And like we have the whole plan for the year.
Yeah. Wow, you guys, whole year's plan.
Whether it's going to happen, who knows, right? We just finished. We reached the first milestone, worked, nice.
Yeah.
Let's see what's next plans. They're going to work or not? Are they delivering or not? No one knows.
True.
Having plan is important, but be prepared for plan Z.
Yeah, I love how you said, and I think what you resonated with me is like this is not a failure. This is a hypothesis. Like, and it's when I look at it from that perspective, it takes away. Or it doesn't feel as painful when I think of it from that perspective. I'm like, I had a thought, that thought was wrong, cool, I can move on. But again, as you know, going through that journey and me going through this journey, I'm like, there's times, because you think it, and for so like, just to give you some context. So I started working recently with a executive coach, and he's like a mentor to me and everything. So we've had like coaching sessions together, and Valerie, he challenges my thinking so hard. So I've been, and once you have that like aha moment, I'm like, oh my God, how could I not have seen that I was doing this thing wrong? And this is where people come into play, because you need to have the right people around you. So in your case, you have you guys do a lot of different things, so you have a team. In my case, I have partners that I pull into projects, but it's just me. So obviously I read a lot, I try to challenge my perspective, to do these things. That's why I love doing this podcast, because every conversation I walk away like, I didn't know that, or I was thinking about it wrong, or great. So it forces me to think differently. But it was only, honestly, when you have that like one specific person or a couple of people that can really show you a different way of looking at something, that you can really start to unlock a brand new approach. Would that be, have you had that experience? Because I know you mentor people as well. So is that kind of the job that you have to do with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the point, that we all humans here to teach each other. Yeah. We can't be great in everything, and you're great in one thing, someone else is in other things. And we also have, hopefully, because it's not for everyone, right? But hopefully we're growing, and in different, timelines or different paths. Like if we change something, or even like with like level 1, I need this type of mentors. When I go there, you completely change your mentors, right? So it's always like this in sport and business, everywhere. So it depends on which level you are now. Okay, I can help you, but maybe like, if to say someone just completely closed to entrepreneurship, you can't even work with these people,
Yeah.
right? Or someone is like, oh, I need to build multi-billion business. I can't help you because I don't have a multi-billion business. So it depends. You're always growing, and so it's changing. Your clientele is changing with the time because you're growing. It's more interesting for you to work with different types of people. And the same with mentors. Maybe in 5 years you will change your mentors totally. Maybe in 1 year. Depends
True.
on this. So yeah, we're like a mentoring, but you are learning from me now. I'm learning for you. We're learning through stories. We're learning all what works for you, what works for me. What didn't work for us.
Yeah, of course,
We're like,
which is more important, I think.
And you're like already, maybe I need to check it.
Exactly. Exactly. And so another thing when it comes to just transitioning from the people aspect and having to change and learn and so on. This is where, just so I'll give you some context. So I've been doing this for 2 years now. And the last 2 years have been, for me on a personal level, this was like working on Khalid time, you know? So like full head down, personal development, create a routine, like fix this, go to therapy, like do all that stuff, get Khalid to like a good foundation. Now Khalid feels like he's at a good foundation. But the thing that, so obviously during that time I'm watching podcasts and so on, and there's this common thing that you hear from every successful entrepreneur is like, yeah, 24/7, no sleep, don't eat, don't see anyone, all like that, you know, the grit story, like you gotta grind it out, whatever. So I'd be watching that and I'm like,
I want to live like that.
it's not that I don't live like that. I'm like, it made me feel bad because I'm like, I'm at this moment, I'm not living like that. And it seems from not just one person, a common theme is to achieve what I want to achieve, I have to be like that. So nowadays, I'd say the last like couple months, 3 months, now I feel like it's not that I'm not working like 24/7, but I'm definitely up the pace big time. So like I'm feeling it now. And I feel now I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right things. I'm starting to perform and work at the level I need to. But in your case, I know that at one point you built a business, burnt out, you close it down. So there's two different like messages going on. You know, everyone's like, push. That's what you need to do to be successful. But we're forgetting about like the time that you need to like recharge, to pause and so on. So, and I think this is where a lot of entrepreneurs fall into. We forget to do part two. Part one's easy because productive moving, but to be like, let's just 5 minutes, let's just relax a sec, and then we'll continue. So tell me, what did it feel like to be burnt out? Because that is something that I think a lot of people, not just in entrepreneurship, but in work and in business feel as well.
It's just you are waking up and you don't want to do anything. You're like completely done. Like you ask, what does meaning burnt out?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean, everything comes with a price from one side.
Yeah.
And it depends what you want. If you want a specific level of success, the question is, do you want to pay this price? From one side. From the other side, I don't think people are really working 24/7 at the very first place. Yes, there are seasons when you like, you know, you have a launch or something, or like if you have championship and you need to put efforts during like months. It can be even a year, right? When you're pushing and you're achieving something. But it's not that this is the whole life.
Yeah.
Maybe someone is living, I actually know people who are living like this, constantly working, constant like pressure, they don't sleep, and they have poor health, relationships fully like collapsed en masse. The question is, what is it for you important? For me, like experiencing, I think in this life, I experienced different timeline because we can live over 100 years. So you can always choose what you want, what kind of, whatever of yourself you're building.
Sure.
Who are you? Like, I'm a family guy, I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm a corporate, right? So you choose this scenario, and then you start building this. And answering your question, there is no, of course, balance. But again, for example, now we help people to create business around their desired lifestyle.
Okay, could you tell us more about that? Yeah.
For first, we are not jumping into strategy. Oh, let's do business plan, let's do numbers, and let's learn like money management system, branding, whatever. No, we like sit down with people and say, what do you want in your life? Like, what is the ideal vision? How does it look like? Do you want to have family? Do you want to have kids? At the very first, it's different. because I was burnt out because I had 2 kids. We just launched the platform and just couldn't manage this, like everything. So, and we didn't have team at the time, so we were like wearing so many hats. And like figure out and be truthful. Do you want to be this? I'm like a multi-billionaire. I'm like creating insane content. I have billions of people watching me. If this is life, it's one approach. But if you say, I just want to be like, travel the world, enjoy my family, enjoy my friends, and actually experience this life, because life is not just work. It's a different approach.
Yeah.
So, and then you're starting to build up, okay, let's be honest. How much time do I have? And if you you have family, you have spouse, so you definitely have in your calendar, or maybe even not in calendar, I don't know, but I do recommend, right, when you have time for your loved one, when you have time for kids, when you have, it's all part of this time. And when people say, no, it's just 100% work, you're stealing from your relationships and you are investing in your business. When you are like saying, no, I'm just like fully into this, again, you're stealing from your health, you're stealing from your friends, social life, enjoyment.
Yeah, true.
And that's why like a lot of people are becoming machines.
Yeah.
I heard this expression, like nowadays in society there are more programs than human beings. And that's why we want to really start bringing people together to remind them about this human factor. You're a human being. And when we do experiences, we learn together, but also we have fun. Like even yesterday we had after party.
Yeah.
So we had fun together.
Yeah.
And it was like really in the flow. Yes, it's like-minded people. It's entrepreneurs. We don't have stupid conversations, but it's fun. And because they're like-minded, you don't need to filter who you are, what you are. Just like feel it's such a different environment. So decide what do you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
Because if it's just business, I mean, there is a big problem. In terms of, work is important, but you made this money, and so what? Yeah. When we die, what you say? I just worked hard. Who cares? Have you visited? Do you have a bucket list? How many things did you accomplish? I think we are so brainwashed that life is suffering. It's a hustle. And that's what we want, like one of our missions, we want to change this narrative and say, you can make money easier. You can actually enjoy life. You can actually be so fulfilled in all areas of your life. But as you mentioned, first you invest in foundation, and then you become better. But eventually you have it all. I believe we can't have it all.
Yeah.
It's you just said, no, you can't. It's a choice. It's a belief, a limiting belief that you can't.
Yeah.
And when successful people say, sacrifice everything, because I had such mentor, like, no, this is no, just work. And I was like looking at him at some point, it's like, you don't have family. You look like not so happy person, actually. Yes, you have insane amount of money. Good for you. Do I want to live like this? Probably not. Time to change mentor.
Yeah.
So if you, and this is the choice, right? So if you want to live this life, hire this person. If you want to live life when you're making money, you're doing what you love, when you have eventually great relationships. If you want kids, you want to have kids, doesn't matter. Like you want travel, you want just like be like, see the world, expand, then hire the mentor who lives the same values.
Yeah. I think starting from that question, it's such a simple question, but everything is built from it. What is the life you want to live? Is it like you said, is it traveling? Is it the money? Is it the status? Like, and everything comes at a cost, and you have to decide which price I'm going to pay. And this is a debate I have like with people sometimes, people who like work, and so like people have like jobs, and like I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm like, the price you're paying for like having like a boss and like rules and restrictions and all that kind of stuff is security, good money coming in every month. That's the price you're willing to pay. Great, no problem. And I'm like, on my side, the price I'm willing to pay is, I have freedom of my time, but every day I wake up like, oh my God, what do I do? Where's the next client coming from? How do we do this? Should I do this? Should I do that? So yes, I have freedom of time, but the price I'm paying is uncertainty. It comes with anxiety. It comes with lots of, difficult times. And I think as an entrepreneur and listening to your story, and we've touched on it a couple of times in this conversation, is the personal development aspect. And I've said this before on podcasts, I consider entrepreneurship, this is the ultimate personal development playground because, and you touched on it, you're going to have to wear so many hats. Every weakness you have is going to be exploited. You're going to figure it out because some things are not going to work and you'll be like, okay, I'm not good at that. This is what I'm good at. Also teaches you a lot. I think to be a successful entrepreneur, you really have to invest in yourself consistently and you have to constantly be wanting to learn. And being comfortable with letting go of, let's say you worked for a year for this plan. It didn't work. Okay, fine. Gone. Like you said, a hypothesis, gone. Tomorrow's a new day. Let's try a new thing. To continuously experiment, to continuously push yourself. And you touched on limiting belief, which is what I really wanted to dive in with you today. Because as you know, and you just said it now, there's a limiting belief we have that, for example, we can't have it all. Before we get into the belief part, I wanted to touch on the conversations and being honest with yourself. That, before you get to the belief, you have to, in my opinion, that's where you have to start. And really ask yourself the tough questions. Am I happy? Is this what I want? And sometimes, in your example, you were 16 years and you became a champion. What if it was 16 years and you didn't was it all worth it? No, I have to continue down this because I invested so much time. And we're very good at lying to ourselves. We are the best. So easy. No, it's not that bad. No, I don't believe that. So just to start, how can we start having honest conversations with ourselves? Because then that's the first part. And then that's when the beliefs start to show up.
Well, I don't think we are lying to ourselves. It's our mind lying to us. This is the biggest liar in the world is our mind. Mm-hmm. It creates stories. And it's crazy. Sometimes you build relationships, partnerships, whether it's a business partner or a private partner, right? When you have honest conversations, you're coming from the space of your story in mind. The person has completely different stories. So there is no truth. Where is the truth, right? Yeah. Every single person has their own truth. So what is your truth and what is in your mind is completely different things. And that's why I think especially if you're an entrepreneur, because we have this responsibility, we create something, product, services, and it easily can destroy world, people, and we know lots of weird examples like that, or you are creating it for abundance, for bringing light to do something great. So it's a responsibility. And that's why it's so important to have the tools that connect you to your truth, to yourself, who you are, and exploring. And I think it comes also with a cost. Yeah, of course. But it was thinking, oh yes, I'm meditating. I see all these visions, and they say, oh, I'm so connected. And this is such a BS. When you start to connect yourself, yes, you see these beauties, and you learn what is worthiness. Worthiness is not attached to any of material things. I'm worthy because I'm alive. I was created. I'm worthy, I'm a masterpiece of the universe. It took me, still in the process of realizing that every single of us is a masterpiece that was created by power that is so much greater. From the other side, we're used to think that this is the power that is so much greater, but we're part of this, meaning we have this power inside. But for many reasons, we are either afraid of this power or we're disconnected. For example, I'm always asked why women empowerment, because women were so much deprived from this right to own their power. We were burnt millions years ago. We were treated like abandoned, literally pushed away from the society, because we were given this gift to be intuitive. Men have different powers. They are strong. They are more head logic, put all things together. They have their own. You have your own greatness. Women are very intuitive. And in the past, when you see things you see more than other people see, you're crazy, you're insane, get out of here. So we developed these common consciousness wounds. And that's why nowadays we're afraid to be attached to these powers again. And now, thanks God, we're again coming back to ourselves. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to tap inside of us. And for different person, it will be different journeys, of course,
Sure.
because there are so many ways how you can do it. But even in a daily practice, when you start, whether it's like brain rewiring, like meaning, first of all, it's not even brain rewiring, but learn how to shut this up. Stop it. And it's so hard. Presence, like where you can learn a lot about yourself is presence. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Not because it's hard, but because this is like constantly working. But when you're present, you are aligned with your true feelings and your emotions.
Yeah.
And this is what, as a soul, like maybe I go too spiritual now.
That's fine.
Like
Yeah, please.
soul can, why we need this body and why we need this experience, because somewhere else on this in this universe, we don't have body. And this body, even if it's like in pain, and there's dramas, and there's tears, right? It's all feelings you can't experience somewhere else in this world.
Sure.
And instead of like escaping, and I think lots of people who are like promoting this workaholism, because they are workaholics by themselves, it's also part of avoiding your true emotions and feelings. Oh, I better go and work and feel productive. Then I sit down with myself and say why I have this pain.
Yeah.
And what do I need to process? People like emotionally unavailable. This is like
Very true.
this is where your connection to yourself lays. And when you say, okay, I'm ready, because you really need to be ready. And when it all comes, you start to learn about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think one of the painful experiences, even though like you think I went through so many things, so many pains, for me one of the most painful experiences was to literally face my shadows. So like, Valerie, this is you created this. This is you. This dark side came out, and the feeling is like, you know, huge car crashed you several times.
Yeah.
But it's not like physical pain, of course. It's like this mental and emotional.
Course.
And yes, you may be laying in bed and thinking this, I'm a shitty person. Right? How could I do that? But then it's such a relief. And you start owning this.
Yeah.
And learn how to love yourself despite of it.
Yeah.
No, yes, it was me. Yes, I destroyed it. I destroyed my business. I destroyed my relationships. I destroyed whatever. Or I caused pain to these people. I did that. You own it. You learn from this, and of course you will do everything, never repeat these stupid mistakes, hopefully.
For sure.
And say, okay, how can I use it but turn it to the light part?
Yeah.
Some of our shadows can actually so much serve us.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember you touched when I was looking at your website, you guys were talking about what are the common things entrepreneurs like go through. So uncertainty, fear of failure, burnout, all that kind of stuff. And you know, the message was failure and success are two sides of the same coin. For every strength, there's a weakness. And for every weakness, there's also a strength. So it depends how you want to look at it, how you want to use it. Just like you, my most painful experience in my entire life is the reason I'm sitting here in front of you today. Because it just, after that, like you said, I'm like, I will never feel like this again. I don't care. I can fail in many things, but to feel that feeling, I'm like, I will work all the time on myself to never feel that again. So I resonate with that message and with that feeling. And like you said, this thing is, this guy will make you or break you. What I've learned over the past 2 years is the way, because it's a life, this is, between you and yourself is a lifetime war. This is a war. It's not a battle. This is a war.
Yeah. And
not just every day, every minute, you have a fight, you know, and a very simple thing. You wake up, you're like, I'm not in the mood to read today. That's what he's telling you. And then you're like, shut the fuck up. We're going to read today. That's just one battle. And I'm like, so what I've learned is the way you start quietening that voice is by doing what you say you're going to do. You said like, okay, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you do that and do it consistently, you build confidence, at least in my experience, so that voice isn't as loud. It's much easier to quiet. And especially when it's the loudest and you beat it, that's when it feels the best. And that just fuels the confidence and keeps you going. But of course, it's a war. I don't always win. Actually, the last month and a half, I've been losing a lot more than I want to. But I think if when it's all said and done, at the end of, when, you're at the end of your life, if you, on the balance, on the scoreboard, you had more wins than losses between you and yourself, I think that's a pretty good life. That's my philosophy. So I don't know if you agree, disagree.
I would say that we again chose to have this experience to battle with this thing.
Yeah.
And yes, it's literally war. And I think when we say why we see so crazy things happening in outside world, wars literally, it's a mirror of basically the common consciousness of our own battles.
Mm-mm.
Can we actually win? Probably.
Yeah,
We don't know,
I don't
right?
know.
We need it actually as well.
Of
we
course.
need our mind, we need our ego. But the thing is, what I started to notice, when we connect to ourselves more, we need to less hustle. Because our mind, like, for example, you have back to the goals, you have a goal, and there are so many ways how you can achieve it. There is the way when you can just hit the wall until it's full and to find out that there is another wall being burned out.
So true.
Or imagine this is all was created how, right? Your mind can even imagine how things are working. Time does not exist and things like that. It's so easy, let's say God, whoever, universe, whatever you call it, to give you whatever you want. Just take it. And I think the price to pay, if you won't have it, connect. The only thing is connect. And
sorry to interrupt you, Valerie, because this is what you're talking about is very important. And you're not the first person I've heard say this about the importance of connecting with yourself. Now, I come to you, I'm like, hi Valerie, I'm Khaled, I'm disconnected. Teach me what are the steps I need to take? What's the action plan I need to do to feel connected and to build that connection?
Figuring out practices, practical part, how to switch off mind. Also, a lot of people disconnected from their body. They feel very bad inside. And it's not just overeating or not being health side, of course, but then doctors, this is another department. But also why a lot of people disconnected, that they can't be present because they carry so much pain and wounds. And it requires them to go through so many layers of purging emotions.
Yeah.
Through forgiveness, yourself, other people, eliminating all this craziness. When it's a journey.
Of course.
And you can postpone it even until 100,000 lives.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, you can take it now, and there
course.
is no this is in a year you will do it, or in a 10. You don't know. It's up to you. It can happen in a week that you will But if you would say, also it's a decision. I decide, okay, I'm working on myself, right? And then every day you do these practices.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as you mentioned, there are some people need therapy,
Mm-hmm.
for example. But also be aware that nowadays you can heal so many things just in in one session.
Yeah.
You don't need 100,000 years. So when you learn, not learn, but you purge, you're connected with the emotions, you're already on this path when you're feeling better, sitting here. Many years ago, I was always somewhere else, so much disconnected somewhere, building the visions from the space, whoa. Because I didn't realize that I have so many wounds and pain. And that's why I was always lesson 1, lesson 2, you're not going through this. Let's give you again this. You're repeating the scenarios until you have so much pain in life that you actually have to humble yourself and say, it's enough.
Yeah.
And then you start healing. And again, there should be kind of a balance, because I don't want to say over healing. There is never enough healing from one side. From the other side, don't think that you're broken. It's so easy to say, I'm never healing, I always need something. But you also need to go out and leave.
Yeah.
Don't think that you are broken. Oh, something is happening in my business, meaning something was wrong with me. Nothing was wrong with me. And again, this is where this game of rewiring comes. When you say, even now, I know I still need to work on ABC, but I deserve today to earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
I deserve to have the most loyal team. I deserve to have relationships that I dream about, and I deserve to have a nice health. And from my inside, I can't control external factors. I don't know what's happening tomorrow with all this tech stuff, but I can control what depends on me. For example, I woke up today, I was exhausted, but I still was listening whatever meditation, quantum jumping, whatever I'm doing to rewire myself and to build up my body to the next level. So connections, I think for me, what I say, again, just to summarize, I think first of all, it's decision to make it happen. Second is just really say, okay, I'm ready to release all these wounds, figure out how to heal. And then, of course, start working on step by step. What is it?
Yeah.
But mind is what tools work for me. For some works meditations, for some not.
Of
Maybe
course.
something different.
Yeah, of course.
It's your body. I think people so underestimate the power of the body.
Yeah.
And like when you are dancers, you start feeling like I'm sitting with people and I can say immediately if like it's a right partnership, not right partnerships. Your body will speak to you.
Yeah.
So make sure you find a way how to ground yourself, how to be connected.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you finally start to unlocking something that I cannot sometimes explain. Like literally, you think something, this person comes to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yesterday was crazy. It was like I'm managing, my business partner couldn't come. She's in Riyadh. And I'm managing alone so many things. Like, oh my God, I need to go and find this person. And she shows up. I'm like, oh, I need to send a message, and this person is messaging. Like, it's unexplainable.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it comes when you are like repeatedly doing things.
Sure.
What works for you, not because bad. It's also we're good at this.
Yeah.
But yeah, allowing even the thought that there's something bigger than your mind.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for like explaining that process, because in this personal development space, one of the things that always frustrated me when, I went through 2 very intense personal development phases, and now I'm in like my second one. But now it doesn't feel like a phase to me. It just feels like this is my lifestyle. This is what I like. This is what makes me feel good. So this is what I want to do all the time. But that personal development space, and you touched on it earlier, like we'll go take programs, we'll do this, like, a 5-step process to make $1 million, 5-step process to lose 10 kilos. Like everyone tells you. The 2 biggest issues I have is everyone tells you the what, not the how, number one.
Yeah.
And everyone is telling you like, this is a guaranteed process. It works for Valerie. It's going to work for Khalid for sure. And it's not.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And coming on to the the limiting beliefs aspect, because this is where, once you're going through this journey of trying to be connected to yourself, and I love that you said it is a decision. No, and this is what I tell people if they're considering therapy. I'm like, if I told you, I'm like, hey, Valerie, I think you need therapy, and you go to therapy, it's not going to work. If it doesn't come from you could have the best therapists, the best coaches, the best trainers. It has to be a conscious decision from you, and then you can get the help to accelerate that process. Now, limiting beliefs, as you've experienced, as I've experienced, as every single human being has, where they're ingrained to us from a very early age. And in my case, I didn't even know what it was or what was going on until I was about, I think, 30, which was the first time I ever went to therapy. I was 30 years old. And I'm like, because throughout my life, I always had this feeling, and what I learned is I had the belief that I'm not enough. Throughout my whole life, and it started from school. I've known that my whole life. But I never had like a word for it. I'm like, I feel a certain way. I don't know what it is, but my life keeps reinforcing this belief that I don't even know I have. So when you were talking about the shadows, that's like that was my shadow. I didn't know about it. Once I knew about it, I could define it. I understood what it was. Now I can start working on it. But it's called the shadow for a reason, because it's there, but I don't know it's there. And this is where I think, this is the biggest thing, not just in entrepreneurship, this affects so many different areas of our life, is we're not even aware of what that shadow is. And I think listening to you, the process of wanting to be connected to yourself through that journey is when the shadow is going to come up. Because like you said, you'll reach a point that you're like, you know what? And this is why I went to therapy in the first place. I'm like, I'm done. I've read the books. I've listened to the podcast. I've done everything. And I don't have the answer, because I believe we all have the answer. It's there somewhere. But I was doing a lot of work and I couldn't find it. So I'm like, you know what? I've exhausted all my options. It's time to go get help. So how do we start? Number one, first, becoming aware of what those shadows are. And number two, once we are aware, how do we start destroying those beliefs? Because like you said in podcasts and stuff, the path from where I am to where I want to go is one limiting belief away. That's what I learned listening to you. So what do you think? How would you address that?
What a question, right? I think it's not just, again, what I learned from, let's say, quantum psychology. We're carrying a lot of codes that we, of course, developed in our childhood, but also ancestors. Also, there are actually many layers, I think 6 or 7 layers up to things that so many people probably will not understand, so let's not go there.
Sure.
But this is all like code sitting somewhere in our subconscious mind, and we don't know what the hell is happening.
Exactly.
Because like, I know exactly what I want. I do everything, and I'm like, go there.
It's still not working. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why what normally people used to, like, the reaction is, it's your fault. Like, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's like, I don't know, politics, government, friends, spouse. Everyone is guilty. It's not me, because it's hard to turn the mirror. And it's a really great example. Like, if you want to change your reflection, stop. Like, you have, for example, you wore something and you don't like it. You will not change your mirror, right?
Yeah.
You'll just go and change it by yourself. So this is like the same. If you don't like your reality, universe is always speaking to us with different signs. And that's why when you like sit quietly and you start feeling something, and very often it may be an anxiety for some people, maybe it's fears, whatever. If we talk about shadows, so it's connected to negative emotions. And when you start listening to them, the answers are coming. Sometimes these feelings can like disappear if you're like focusing on them literally. I'm not talking figuratively, like literally you're focusing for a while, a few minutes, it might disappear. Sometimes the answer can come to you. And it comes either through therapists, or when you already experience, you can actually also by yourself just like tapping deeper where this first time I experienced something, my mind even remember.
Yeah.
If you don't remember, then of course you go there.
Yeah,
People
you need therapy
who can
for
help.
sure. Yeah.
Yes, but you go back and you look at this experience. And you start thinking from this, like, you mentioned something, we're not good enough. For example, I think it's easier to expand on the example. I had lots of traumas in childhood.
Yeah.
And when I came back to this moment and look at the person who caused this, like who was, let's say, victimized.
Sure.
Right? And so this person, like, he or she was not functioning from the space of like he or she hates me or wants to cause me pain. It's because this person was struggling so much and couldn't manage, do better. It has nothing to do with me. And when you start realizing you're not the cause of other people's dramas, as a kid, as a small kid I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
And but even in adulthood, right? You're not responsible for other people's emotions, reactions, how they treat you. If someone betrayed you, it doesn't mean that, you know, you are the worst person in the world, you don't deserve. No, it's just like how this person decided to leave. And when you start to like give back them whatever is there, but own your own stuff, things start to shift. Like you're kind of returning to yourself, your power in some parts of yourself.
You have that like separation, right?
Yeah, so like, you know, it was a drama. This person couldn't manage. I was just a kid. I didn't know how to respond and react. Now I'm an adult. I can work on my emotions. I can regulate. And you know what the interesting thing, when I started to explore more how to tap into abundance and all this, like everyone talking the same, like rewire your brain, affirmations, whatever. I feel like this is always an idea that now I need to learn hundreds thousands of tools that will makes me like closer to my dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have it yet. But actually, when you see like connect to yourself, I also didn't understand what does it mean until someone explained our soul has such a insane amount of experience. We were everything everywhere. You know this movie, it's literally like that. We were everything. So our soul was already like the richest person in the world, but also the poorest one. It was the most beautiful, I don't know, top model.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like, I don't know, the ugliest, living on the street and abundance and whatever. We know all these experiences. So it's just how, like, to learn how to tap into this version of yourself. It's already inside of you.
Mm.
And when I realized this concept that this dream is already inside, so let's cultivate it. And again, it comes from the sitting in quiet, when you focus on this kind of energy, like, okay, this is me, this is the person who have it all. Now, I'm already this person. I'm not this broken whatever.
Yeah.
Who everybody treat me this way.
Yeah.
And when you practice every day, maybe one day nothing happens, a week nothing happens, months nothing happens, but eventually it clicks. You show up different. You're more self-confident. You attract completely different people. Some out of nowhere comes and helps you. It's just because you're not like you as you still, but you're just like functioning from another path of yourself.
Yeah.
So that's how you basically break these limiting beliefs about yourself.
Yeah.
That you're not this broken, and you don't need someone is fixing you, or you don't need all this. I mean, tools, they are all working. We need them for specific reasons, like shut up the mind. Okay, I want to have much healthier body, I do this. It's good, but it's not the tools that helps you to become multimillionaire, the most successful, whatever. You're already this person.
Mm.
And you need these tools to realize it.
Yeah.
And to tap into this.
It's such a counterintuitive thought, because we all, every time there's a goal that we're setting or something we're trying to achieve, it's because there's this thing I don't have now and I want it. So it's always outside of me. It's not here because I need to build to get there. But when you look at it from that perspective of, oh, I have this, I already have this here, but I just don't have it maybe materially or mentally. Like it's there, but I need to figure out, it's still a process. But I think, and I heard on a podcast once someone was talking about, you know how people say, oh, find your passion. He was saying exactly what you're saying. He's like, no, it's here. You just have to discover it. Finding and discovering are two things, because finding is something that is out there. It's not here. I think that shift opens up a lot of, what's the word? Maybe more optimistic, I would say, like approaches, or how you would feel about starting, this journey, because you're not starting from a place of I don't have or lack. I'm starting from a place I have, I just don't know when or what it is that is gonna, represent itself to me.
It's kind of layers. First of all, of course, we were brainwashed by society, by family, by whoever, that we don't enough. You can't make it because we couldn't. Another part is our own traumas, wounds, whatever we have inside. And this pain disconnects us to ourselves. But when you like layer by layer start to release these things, and again, the tools, the therapies, whatever you choose, we're all different. For some works this, for someone works that. It's all the process. And I think like when people set the goals, why it's important to set your own goals is because I feel like who we truly are really knows how to tap into even greater potential. And with this vision, like it's given to you already, this vision, that's why people call it calling, is because this is the path that will unlock so many aspects of yourself. But when we grab someone else's visions We see this social media, whatever, and you mentioned all the successful people pitching work like insane person. So it's their vision, it's their goals, and meaning that maybe it's not your goals. Maybe you don't want to have 10 jets, right?
Yeah.
It's someone else's vision, someone else's life goals. The same with the business. Maybe you don't want to have a company with 100,000 employees. Maybe it's not what is actually will make you happy. Because at the end of the day, it's not how much, like measurable things, it's how you feel. Are you happy? Are you enjoying yourself, your life? This matters. Yeah, someone can say, yeah, you know what, it's better to be billionaire and live this life than, you know, you're telling me these things. But to be honest, why not to have both? What if you can be a super multi-billionaire and build your business in a way that you feel happy, you feel fulfilled?
Yeah.
And that's why, because our mind is limited with the strategies, but here strategies are crazy for our minds. Like, what the heck, you're going to come here and do event, you don't even live here, but then you meet one person who is opening you the doors to everything you always wanted to have.
Yeah.
And my mind is like, you're insane, it doesn't make, like, did you check your numbers?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so this is like a completely different level of exploring entrepreneurship as well.
You know, of course, for sure. So when would you say, given over the course of, you know, you were a world champion athlete and then you had so many different experiences in real estate and investment, you became a public speaker, interviewed so many people. When could you like say or pinpoint when you felt like, all right, now I feel like I feel connected now to myself? Was it a moment, or was it a certain phase in life that like, you know what, now it's always an evolution, and there'll be like, there's going to be more points in the future that you're going to have to work through, whatever. But I think after you go through certain experiences over a certain amount of time, and if you're putting in the work, you'll reach a point that between you and yourself, on like the deepest level, you'll be like, I'm good now. Doesn't mean I'm not happy, I won't be sad, won't have struggles. No, but between me and myself, I'm like, now we have a good relationship now. Yeah. Do you remember when that was for you? I think
it's I would say even the last year happened.
Okay, same time, perfect.
Yeah, like when you're just like so grounded. I'm so good at sitting with me, like in silence, be present. And I don't need to like go somewhere in crazy visions. I don't need to reminiscing, like thinking, oh, past, what is, like, but be here, like, oh, I see what is happening here, and feeling good.
Yeah.
Like I'm feeling good in my body. I think it's just like the last year started to change.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And again, it takes time. And I think this is also a element of this whole beliefs, exploration, building when it comes to even entrepreneurship, like even your journey as a world champion. Underlying all of that, everything we've talked about today, Valerie, is the concept that we haven't touched on enough: time. It takes time. And the problem is, as we've touched on, as humans, let's be very honest, we are lazy. If I can do something in 5 seconds, like with ChatGPT, that would have taken me an hour before, I'm going to use that. And we're living, as time is moving forward now, in a world of convenience, much faster access to everything. It's all fast, quick gratification. And I think when it comes to, and that's why I think a lot of people struggle in this journey, is because I want it now. Oh, I meditated yesterday. Why am I not fixed? Oh, I read a book. Why haven't I learned everything? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think people need to be aware that it takes a long time.
But I think it's also like an illusion that like I was living like the whole life until recently. It's like, oh, when I have it, like, give it me now as soon as possible. Actually, yesterday I needed that. But then when you start like connecting more and enjoying present, the path, the life becomes different. And like for me, if you say, oh, yes, I have a goal, but I'm fine if it's never happened. Because meaning something better will happen. Or it will lead me to somewhere else. So you start the kind of, you still do whatever it takes, but you're also surrendering. And this is like living in such different I think what I'm like trying to not just pitch but live by myself is the quality of life.
Yeah.
And then I decide if I go for the next thing or not. Even the project, do I want to have this project now, or I can wait until next year?
Yeah.
Because I can definitely do it this year, but how will that affect the quality of my life? If it's negative, I say no. And this is like my decision making now. Does it add value to the desired lifestyle I want already have, or no?
Yeah, I think that's the most important metric, I think, at the end of the day. And like you said, you said a very key word there, which I think a lot of us struggle with, is surrender. Because to surrender means, I can't control that thing. And as people, we have this deep-seated belief we want to control as much as we can because that makes us feel secure and, comfortable. And that's why uncertainty we don't like, unknown, change, all these different things. Just to round off our conversation for today, Valerie, I have 3 more questions for you. And I wanted to end on this one in particular. Because everything we've talked about today, whether it's entrepreneurship, the beliefs, the connecting with yourself, the mental aspect, the physical aspect, when you change is always uncomfortable, even if it's positive or negative. Anything that we are not very good at dealing with change. And you said something or the way you described it is when you're going through this journey, you are unbecoming the person that you were. And I think one of the hardest things in that is to unbecome from the person I was means I have to disconnect from the identity I've always had and create this new identity. And as people, I think identity is something that we are very stuck to, whatever it is, you know, and whatever phase of life we're in, we will say different things. So I think underlying everything we've talked about, the identity crisis that you will go through this change is the hardest part of all of it. My perspective. What would you say?
Yeah, I think it's like transitioning phase because you're like falling back or I'm going back on track. And then you're like, why nothing is happening, and then you're thinking about, maybe I had to stay in the past because at least I had the security, I had this comfort, whatever, even if it's like a painful comfort.
It's familiar.
Yes, and then you're like, no, I'm committed. But I think now, like, thinking, like, while you were also describing, and I was, like, thinking deep inside of myself, this is all, like, game. Like, Saul came here to have fun. Yeah. It's we are, like, here, oh, my God, this Matrix makes me crazy, right? For Saul, it's, like, fun. You're laying there on the floor, struggling, break up, and Saul is like, yay. How fun is that game, right? So if you start thinking, okay, this is the game. You're given specific time. You don't know how much when it's game over, but this is like a playground for your soul. And then you can choose so many different avatars, like, today I'm this and this, scrolling. And they say, let's try this one. And you're starting to wearing it. Meaning for us, meditating, and I was this abundant version of myself.
It's so true. So true.
Imagine this bridge, like, quantum jumping meditations. I'm transformative. You're doing all this thing. You're playing the game of the soul. Yeah. Because it's already had it all. For you, it's just for us, for our mind, for its comfort. That's how you are changing, etc. And I think we also can choose the path, what I'm realizing now. If you want to make it hard and painful, meaning continue suffering sometimes, from time to time, or you see, okay, this is just can be a fun game. Yeah, today I'm not feeling well. But and even like in therapy, sometimes they say it's important to process your emotions. Sometimes cry, whatever it's. But make sure you're not just spending there.
All the time there.
Give it the time, then go back. There's like dust yourself off and go back on track. So I think the change of this identities. If you're like trying it's hard, it will be hard. But if you look at this like, let me scroll and put another costume or this character personality, it's something different. For sure. And even like in dancing, I remember I was so many often like times I was told like, oh, I'm so bad in this and that, and you believe in this and you're feeling trashy, right? And another part is when you're saying, I'm already a champion. You're wearing the best dance like training stuff. You're already showing up. You don't pretending.
Yeah.
By the way, it's so much different because so many fake it until
you make it. Yeah, very common hear that.
Act like you belong as well.
Yeah.
I don't think this is different feeling. You're not yet a champion, but I do dress like, and I'm not talking about like money wise, but
sure.
I feel like I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
I'm showing up. I'm on the dancing floor, and I'm like already have a completely different energy. And the same, I don't have like, I don't know, 9 figures in my bank account, right? But with all available resources, I make sure like I feel good, I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm already this person.
Yeah.
And have fun with this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Reflecting on our conversation today, Valerie, what I really appreciate and have learned from you is I love how you reframe things to make them so much lighter. Like it's not failure.
Light up.
Yeah, there you go. It's you speak to it. Your message is clear. You are an exact representation of what that message is, because everything, just even listening, because I was asking you about stuff that like I'm bringing my experience and like the pains that I still have and I'm still struggling with and going through, and you're like, yeah, but if you just look at it like an avatar, like a costume, like, oh, like that's so much, that's not like that doesn't, it resonates with me, and it's takes all that like darkness and emotion out of it. I'm like, oh, okay, fine, cool. New clothes today, try this. So I really appreciate the message that you're trying to give out. I know you've had so many different experiences. I appreciate the lightness that you bring to, you know, with your event that you guys had yesterday, and with the work that you're doing and mentoring and coaching. So I personally, on a personal level, I've left this conversation today feeling much lighter than when I started. So thank you. My last 2 questions, Valerie, these are questions I ask all my guests. So looking back at your life, whether personally or professionally, when I ask you the question, what are you most proud of for yourself, what would you say?
Oh, I'm so proud that I finally feel good about myself. I'm feeling so lighter. No, really, like sitting and having. There was time when I really hated people.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And now you are the one who's bringing all these people together.
Yeah.
And you go and have these conversations and you enjoy time. And this is like the most part of the day. What you're doing, you're spending with people, and that's what I'm really proud of.
Yeah. No.
That actually love people. I love connect them, and on the personal level, I'm just becoming like this happier person in my own skin. It's still the process. I'm not telling that I'm feeling so expansional.
Yeah.
But I think it's a huge progress that we so many times overlook.
And yeah, no, I resonate with that message a lot. Once you, like we said, or what this conversation has been, once you feel connected, everything just seems a little bit easier, you know, lighter, you're more positive, and you kind of touched on it earlier, me going through this experience. So just to give you some context, so I've been doing this podcast now for 5 years, and I'm like, my message was always, I want to help people. But over time, over the years, when I tell people, what is this podcast about? What am I doing? The message is, I know it's very clear in my head, or like what I'm trying to do. I feel it, but I can't clearly define it. Only a month, 2 months ago, I was sitting down after starting working with coaches and doing whatever. I had this aha moment, oh, of course, you know, but it wouldn't have come without everything I've done to get to this point and the help of other people and speaking to others and learning from everyone. So I really resonate with that message. And for my last question, Valerie, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Enjoy the journey. Doesn't matter what lifetime you're tapping into. What did you choose? It's so short period of time. Even if you're going to live 100 years, it's still not so much. And every day, like when you hear these phrases that you especially Instagrammable quotes, we are scrolling and we can't even like women empowerment, when they hear this, I can't hear this anymore. It's too much, right? But they are all, it's truth. But it feels the truth when you actually live it.
Yeah.
You're experiencing it. So I think just like treat life as an experience, is a journey, something short. So one day it will disappear. So while you're here, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's so hard that you just cannot pull yourself together. But even in such moments, I think what helps is just continue moving forward, even if you're like crawling. You need to like move while you're crying.
Yeah, that's okay too.
Move.
Yeah.
Because one day you will like look back and thank you for so much work you've done, so much already like, I was reading the book and the author was like, you know what? Like, I've done so much. I have all these awards, all these achievements, and I'm sitting on the ruins of my life. What the heck? Like, am I still a shitty person? Because it is sad that my reality is a reflection of who I am.
Yeah.
That's what we constantly hear. And the answer came like, yeah, be grateful that you're not killing people anymore. Because we've all been all these kind of people who did bad things as well.
Sure.
And we were able to develop ourselves so much that we're not violent anymore. We don't kill anyone, right? We're just here to give something great for human beings. And through this, we are also becoming... But I think it's vice versa. We want to become better.
For
And
sure.
we're doing this like through helping others.
Yeah.
That's why just like be proud of yourself. Enjoy this journey once again. And never, don't give too much, like it's a game.
Yeah, it's and I love that we ended with that it's a game. To pick a different avatar, a different character, try this level, it doesn't work, jump to another one.
Because even like your background is like,
this
it reminds kind of
exactly.
Gaming,
yeah,
something.
exactly. That's kind of the great observation. That's kind of the point, that the reason it's like this is just like, well, I'm trying to do this podcast, I'm trying to help you, so it's like, I hope, this is my fist bump to like the rest of the world, hopefully, someone's receiving it on the other end. But thank you so much, Valerie, for coming on the show today. I love that this was a very spontaneous thing, it all came together so fast, but I have really, really, on a personal level, enjoyed this conversation. I've learned so much from you, and I think we've talked about so many different elements today of the human aspect, not just when it came to entrepreneurship, which was, the earlier parts of our discussion. Everything we talked about in the second part plays into that, because it's all, it's all part of it. So just thank you for the work you do. Thank you for making me feel lighter today as we end the show. And if anyone wants to reach out with you, work with you, connect with you, what's the best place for us to get in touch?
Social media and also the website, ISpeakUpLightup.com.
ISpeakUpByVal.com. Okay, we'll make sure to put it in the show notes. Valerie, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure, really. Guys, to everyone listening, please make sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the podcast at Hope It Helps Pod. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.
Peace.
And that's another episode in the bag, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. The goal of this podcast is to provide, as I like to call it, education on demand. We cover a wide range of topics, and the goal is to provide you with the knowledge, the tools, and the insights to improve your lives both personally and professionally. And if you're enjoying the show and you're enjoying the content, if you could please do me the small favor of hitting that subscribe button, would really help me build the show and build the channel, and that's all I ask. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, bigger guests, and as always, guys, hope it helps.